Okay, we'll try that.
We're recording. Woohoo! One step closer. This is good fun doing it live, eh? So you can see we're real people, and we have real tech problems, and it is possible to do all this while in fact I'm just here opposite the seat of power. There is the New Zealand beehive, where New Zealand Parliament and government sits. So I'm joining here using some free Wi-Fi, and it's possible to run WikiBees from wherever you are, people. And it's fantastic to have Jose here showing us pictures of the mountains and other things. But yeah, go for it, Bruce and Kathy.
And
what's new with WikiBees?
Eurasian enthusiast says it's still buffering a lot.
Yeah. We'll try and solve that next time. You can hear us all right, hopefully.
So
well, if it's stopping,
we're recording it anyway, so we can share it out later if need be. Yeah.
Long buffers. So a question to the people on the YouTube chat: is it acceptable or just too bad? Let's have a vote. Should we? Is it acceptable to continue on like this, or? Okay, so well, I'll continue. Let us know how the stream's going. So for the moment, I just assume that we're good because we're very lucky to have Jose here from Ecuador again. Hi, Jose.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, very good, thank you. I'm still seeing the chat messages, and it's a little bit problematic, Joe, because buffering. I still see images of 3 people and a landscape. No sounds. No sounds. The 3 people in a landscape is good. That's the 3 people.
Just check that desktop audio isn't muted on your end, Kitty. And OBS, there's a little icon next to it.
Okay, I turned it off. Is that right?
It shouldn't be red, put it that way, I think.
It should not be red.
Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't red before. Now it's red.
Okay. Yeah, no, so it should just be not red and working, so no audio.
Okay, so I've turned it back on. Is it better now? I turned it off and on.
The buffering's not good enough. Also, that's what people are saying. The buffering's not good enough.
I mean, the other thing is that they won't be able to hear us immediately. Remember that the stream is a little bit behind the live. So
yes, just it's about 20 seconds.
Right.
But if we can improve the buffering, we may as well stop, I think. Because look, at least from what I'm seeing of YouTube, it's terrible. So, Joe, is there a realistic prospect for improving the buffering, or should we just say it's not going to work out this time?
It's probably just a matter of figuring out if anything else you got open that's consuming resources there.
Okay, give me a second and I'll just shut everything down.
Yeah, right? Try and leave Zoom full screen, but everything else, well, apart from OBS can go. Have we got audio on the internet?
Well, I mean, I'm just playing the stream and I can hear audio.
Yeah, cool. That's what I thought. It was working for me. Okay, so no problems with audio. And if our pictures get interrupted from time to time, that's probably okay.
Okay, we are recording.
And we are recording, so we can give you a high quality version later. All right.
Okay, all my stuff is shut down, except what we're using.
So the audio is good, is it?
No.
The audio is the buffering. So if the images are buffering, the audio must be buffering as well, right?
Oh, audio is only like 128 bits compared to megabits, so yeah, audio might get through all right.
It's not really the computer, it's the connection. Usually my connection is quite high speed, but for some reason, every time there's a Wikipedia on,
yeah, I get the same problem.
Connection.
I get the same problem. It's I'm sure someone says, "Oh, look, let's shut down Wikibees." Anyway, continue on. We are recording it separately, so we can always upload later. I'm going to just stop video to
but hang on a minute,
David as well.
So Eurasian enthusiast says again, audio and video are good, but it is buffering a lot. So should we just make it recorded and then post it later? Because
we lose the interactivity. We can always post a good quality version later. The fact that it's buffering is just, we'll get a few frame lags every now and then, a few dropped frames. It's like it used to be back in the early days, before we had yeah.
Should I put it to a vote of the YouTube chat people?
You can probably also get a few people joining the Zoom if need be directly. We can fit 100 people in there. Run with what you want, Bruce. Continue on or go.
So let's see. Kathy Bogan, you're in the chat. Joe and I can hear the audio. Okay. We are recording locally. And Isis says, no problem. Either live or recorded, you are watched, my dears. Thank you, Isis. So I don't think we should put people through all this buffering. I mean, we can ask them. We're going to ask them.
Well, just let it go. Just let it go. We can actually replace it with a perfect recording later on this evening.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't, yeah?
So just tell everyone that we're going to have a good quality recording later on.
Yeah, totally.
It's up to you whether you want to watch
the
version or not.
Well,
we'll just continue on as if we're live and interactive, and those of you that can join through the chat and interact, that's awesome as well.
How about we kind of introduce it again, so that if it's the recording, we can just start from here.
Totally. I'm just going to drop off video to save bandwidth.
Well, I think people need to know the situation that there's going to be a good quality recording later on, so they can decide for themselves. So can you hear that, people?
Well, they can't hear us live.
Yeah, they might not even be getting it. So.
No, I mean, there's a delay of 20 seconds, so you won't get an answer to that straight away. But maybe we should just start. And start again properly with a proper introduction. And I mean, you did earlier on, but that was about 15 minutes ago.
Okay, so you do the introduction, Kathy, and meanwhile I'll just type.
Sure. Okay, so we're starting again. All right, 1, 2, 3. Hello everybody and welcome to Wikibees 19. We have Joe, Kitty, Jose live from Ecuador again, and Bruce and myself. And as you know, enormous number of things have been happening in the last few days even. But in particular, we've had the refusal to unseal that charge. That was a motion was filed by the Department of Justice the day before. We just heard from Hannah of Twitter handle Assange Legal. She's a candidate, PhD candidate in constitutional law, and she's part of the Assange legal team. So we can trust what's coming out of there. But, you know, we were all trembling with the anticipation, as they say, to find out if that indictment was going to be unsealed. And the consensus between a number of us was that it was generally a good thing if it did. Why is that? Because it came from the Manning era, and it seemed to be a charge that had been abandoned. I mean, we're not really sure. It wasn't dropped, but it's just that the Obama administration had expressed the view that it would be very difficult to prosecute because this one, contrary to what a lot of the public thought, was a First Amendment issue. It's coming from the period where pretty well the whole world was supporting WikiLeaks, but especially the left. So, you know, they've just sort of let it go. Mainstream news and, you know, whatever, have let it go that a lot of people were thinking that this was to do with the Mueller indictment. They were riding on all of that anger still that Trump had been elected, and they kind of milked it for a while. But in the 11th hour almost, the Department of Justice actually filed a motion to say that they would be rejecting cowards because I think the press in America really wanted to bring it on. They're sick of this. You know, they're living in a climate where mainstream journalists are being called the enemy of the people. A Washington Post journalist, Jamal Khashoggi, was sliced up into little pieces, one of their own. And we had the president, you know, wanting to turn a blind eye to it and say, you know, we have financial arrangements with Saudi Arabia. America first meant, well, let's just try and gloss that over. But the press in America, you know, they've had it for, you know, some time about how they're being treated. So if we were pretty sure Assange Legal was fairly certain that this was from the grand jury. We knew that because it was in the Eastern District Court of Virginia that the document had been filed. In fact, you know, we've known about that since February 2011 because from the Stratfor emails, which mention a couple of the intelligence staff of Stratfor, which is an enormous worldwide private intelligence organization, the phrase, "We have an indictment on Assange." So now this is really interesting because there's a question of timing, which is very fine. Julian surrendered himself. If you remember, when he was given permission to leave Sweden after waiting for 5 weeks to try and get this questioning happening, Marianne Nye, the prosecutor, gave him permission to leave Sweden. And then when he arrived, he discovered that she had issued a red notice, Interpol red notice for his arrest, which was really shocking because an Interpol red notice, you know, you would issue that for someone like Osama bin Laden, you know, mass murderers. It's a very, very serious charge, not charge, but arrest warrant. It's priority internationally, right? It's a manhunt. And this was very disproportionate to somebody being wanted for questioning, but the whole thing was to, I suppose, escalated in people's minds. If it's a red notice, then it must be something terrible, right? There must be something we don't know about. It comes right back to the present day with the Guardian, pretending that Manafort came to see Julian. There was nothing in the nothing in the visitors book. You know, there's no records of it whatsoever, but people think, oh, they must have some recordings. But anyway, let's just get to back to when Julian arrived in England. So when he discovered this, Julian surrendered himself to British police on the 7th of December. He was there for 10 or 11 days, according to how people count it. And so he would have been out by the 18th. Now, in fact, the Stratfor email was only sent in January 2011 and then reported on. We heard about it in February. But we've known about this, and Julian has known about this indictment for a long time. That is why he was in the Ecuadorian embassy. That's why the Ecuadorian government decided to give him asylum, because this charge was known about it. But this was one that the Department of Justice would have great difficulty winning, because that put every journalist who handled state secrets in jeopardy, right? It seems that the First Amendment might have knocked it on the head if we got that one released. And if that were the only charge, then of course, America's never going to say. I mean, the game has been delay and smear, yes, year after year, with America, Sweden, UK, all playing their parts, and then a much more aggressive role by Ecuador, making his, turning his asylum into a little shop of horrors. That I think it was maybe Chris Hedges who said that. But anyway, so that was very disappointing. It was a very risky gambit, I think, but the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press, who was, in fact, you know, we've got great people there. And that organization was, right at the beginning, there was Walter Cronkite, who was, you know, someone that Daniel Ellsberg always spoke very highly of. So he was involved, Ellsberg's involved. These are very, very good people to have on side, and they know what they're doing. So they must have thought it a good idea. Let's get it out in the open, and maybe Julian could have walked free. But anyway, we are hearing more slander coming out from journalists at The Guardian, groundless slander, once again from the journalist Luke Harding. He's not the only one, but he's put his name to these accusations about Manafort. And as you know, hopefully, WikiLeaks, Julian instructed his lawyers to sue The Guardian finally, which is, I think, is about time, and to raise a crowdfunder. Start a crowdfunder. And so on the WikiLeaks site, there is a crowdfunding project. It would be really good if you could go on Twitter, go to WikiLeaks and donate some money to that. Over the years, people ask what happens to the money that is donated to WikiLeaks. I can tell you that most of it, besides their survival and I suppose some travel, but most of that money goes into court cases. WikiLeaks have been constantly fighting court cases since 2010, in fact, before that, and they always win. They always win. So your money does get put to good use, because it keeps tipping the balance back onto the side of justice. And we are blessed since 2006 that we have such a service. This is precious information to know the Iraq war logs, the Afghan war logs, about Guantanamo, about spying on I mean, it wasn't just Edward Snowden. The spy files came out in 2011 from WikiLeaks. Edward Snowden produced the smoking gun, but we are blessed. This is a totally different world because of WikiLeaks. And, you know, if you can only spare a small amount of money, I saw someone had contributed $5. that would be really good. There are some crowdfunders for some of our people as well, which I think is worth mentioning. People are in real difficulty and, you know, being targeted. So we have Susie Dawson and we have Kat Mamer as well, that if you can look into their crowdfunders and spare a few bucks as well. I mean, they don't need nearly as much. So, you know, a small amount would be really appreciated. I think a lot of people in our movement are struggling, but you know, some of us are just staying above water. None of us, I don't think, are rich. I mean, you either have no time for this kind of thing and you have a few bob in your pocket, or else you give your time like that, and you know, it does, you know, there is a cost in the end. You know, I was very, very poor back in 2013 after 2 years of international travel and all that. But anyway, let's, yes, on that word international, we have Jose Rivera, direct from Ecuador. Again, we are lucky to get these live reports from Ecuador. Jose is an independent journalist, and I think it's Sig Ecuador, his handle, but he will explain how to get to him. But hello, Jose, are you still there?
Yes, I am. How are you?
Lovely to talk to you again. All right, can you take it from the top again and let us know what's happening in Ecuador?
As you said, in a few days, a lot of things has happened. So, well, since yesterday, there's a big scandal in Ecuador involving the vice president, Maria Vicuña, that Lenin Moreno chose after he jailed Glass, his vice president that won the elections. So she is involved in illegal payments dating back when she was a parliamentarian at the National Assembly, and she was charging her assistant. He had an assistant who is a lawyer, so she was charging him for keeping his job. So,
right.
So she maneuvered to get him promote him, the lawyer, so that he would get more money on his salary.
Right.
So part of that money was going to her pocket. They already proved the bank accounts that she was taking the money. So tonight, Lenin Moreno just came out on a national news, session, and he just said that he's going to let the law, decide, what happens. But he is the law.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, he's the law.
Okay. So I think I have a very important question, because time is of the essence. How is Jorge Glass on his, what would this be? It's close to his 40th day of hunger strike.
Today is the 39th day. So since yesterday, he's been having some faint spells and some cardiac arrhythmia, irregular heartbeats. And those are the signs of, of the hunger strike. So, his body is telling him, something is going to happen. So we are suspecting that someone is trying to use this issue with the vice president while the Jorge Glass life is in danger. So he could die, you know, of a heart attack any minute. So we are suspecting that, you know, they are using this this scandal to cover up what is happening to Glass, you know, because he's having his life is in danger now. I mean, he's already having health problems, you know, in his heart.
Jose, how are you finding out about this? There must be some news going out.
Yes, there was a medical report done on Glass. So that's how we know, and we also know because of his previous illnesses, you know. So
correct. Yes.
So actually,
can I just ask? When you learned about that, the medical report, was that broadcast on mainstream media, or was or in a newspaper, mainstream newspaper, or was it independent?
No, Rafael Correa published the report, and also there was yes, and also there was I think his wife, Glass's wife, is talking to some you know, people close to her, you know, about the Glass situation, and that's how we know, because otherwise the government would not allow any news to come out of the jail.
Right. And how would Correa be finding out? I suppose his wife. It's just hard to know where the flow of information is. We need to detect where it is so we can amplify it. But what you seem to be saying is that the general population still don't know that their vice president is about to die on his 39th day of a hunger strike. And we do know from Rafael Correa, well, we've heard the assessment from Rafael Correa that there has been no evidence to put him, first of all, to arrest him in December last year, and then much more recently, just over a month ago, to secrete him away, kind of in the middle of the night, to a remote location, maximum security, completely gag him. That he's been to hospital once because his wife was tricked. She was left outside. She wasn't even allowed to come into the hospital. We have photographs of her sleeping on the ground outside the hospital, and they tricked her. And in fact, after they had fed him or whatever, rehydrated, I believe, then they just took him back to the maximum security. All they wanted was a bit like what Moreno wants for Julian, is that they don't die, right? That's all Moreno has actually asked for, as a guarantee from the, you know, the United States, that he doesn't die. So, you know, if they keep their end of the deal, that could be, you know, indefinite detention, 45 years in prison. But it seems that, well, let's just be a little pessimistic, because it's not looking like there's going to be any positive resolution. So what happens when Glass does die?
Well, if he dies, and if he dies this week, and this scandal is still going on, the people of Ecuador are watching on the news channels and on the newspapers the vice president accusations, and they don't even mention Glass at all. So if he dies, probably they will keep the all the media, you know, concentrated on the vice president. So they will probably say, you know, in a second page, you know, Glass died or something. So
that's terrible.
That is, yes.
That's terrible. And look, how long was Glass actually vice president after he was elected? It was about 6 months?
Yes, they started working with Lenin in May 24.
Yeah.
And he was put in jail around October or November of 2017.
It's December it was. It was December.
Just a few months, yes.
Well, I mean, still, I can't see how the whole nation could just forget about the existence of the vice president they elected last year, because the new vice president was not elected. So how can the one they elected just disappear from the collective memory? It's crazy. It's got to be some reaction when he dies.
Oh yes, I think there is going to be a big reaction, but we don't know yet, because as you can see, people have no idea that Glass is in hunger strike. They just know that he is in hunger strike, but that he is okay. That's what they know.
Tell me, do you not know some people who can print posters, just black and white, on a large sheet of paper, and just stick them up on the walls of the street? I mean, the people can do that to inform each other. If you choose places that are, frequented, like a popular spot. I don't know Quito at all, but there must be places where there are always crowds of people, and then you can, you can. I know you don't live there, but you must have some friends who can, it can't be that expensive to just do a black and white poster. It doesn't even have to be that big, but I would say a A3 at least. And, issue a cry for help, because this is his last chance, I think.
Yes.
I mean, he's actually, his body would be shutting down for some time now anyway. There's a lot of damage has been done, but he is still alive. And if he went into intensive care, his life could be saved, I think.
Well, yes. The problem is that the government has assigned his medical team in Quito, which is more than an hour from the jail. So if he has a problem with the heart, he won't have that time.
That's right.
He just won't have it. Because last time that they had that he needed the medical help, he was in the jail for hours until they approved the transfer to the hospital. I think he was like 7 or 8 hours just waiting there, sick.
Yeah. Okay. Folks, I'm going to have to just sign off for a moment. I just received an important phone call, but I won't be long. Maybe Kitty and Bruce, and eventually David, who I've seen has come in. Would you take over with Jose?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, Jose, it's terrible that Jorge Glass. Can you hear me?
Yes,
oh, okay.
I can hear you.
Yeah. I was just, I was showing a couple of your tweets about these topics. And I recommend your Twitter account, the Twitter stream, to anyone. We're getting notices that the buffering is terrible. No complete sentences. So, but the recording of this will be good quality. So I think people will just wait for the recording. So I just show
here you can see fine.
Yes, here will be fine. So I just show you the tweet that you did on Jorge Glass again. So can you see that, Jose?
Yes.
So the report that Glass suffered fainting and cardiac arrhythmia in the jail. I suppose
in the jail. Yes.
Yes. People.
So I say that to the people not to wait until he dies, our vice president, to protest.
Protest
That's
now.
what I'm saying. Yes.
because otherwise he will die.
Yes. I think, you know, because he's a big roadblock, you know, for them, because there are already appeals in the you know, in the OAS, you know, the CIDH, the human rights, but you know, they are moving at a snail pace.
Yes.
Because while, you know, when they touch Venezuela, you know, events, they react immediately. But in our case, they have not even responded to our petitions, you know, to revise the jail sentence and everything. And this is, you know, this was done like you know, almost a year ago.
He was
and nothing, no response at all.
Yes, yes. I was actually just watching a documentary on Venezuela. Venezuela is in terrible shape.
Well, you know, they're under economic warfare by the United States and Europe.
Isn't it crazy? Venezuela has the world's largest reserves of oil.
Yes.
And their economy is in collapse.
Yes. That's what economic warfare does, you know, to a country.
Yeah,
it's the same thing that happened to Saddam Hussein. They did the same thing. I think it was 1 or 2 years, 500,000 children died because of lack of medicine in Iraq. I remember that very clearly. And they were blocking, making economic warfare on Saddam. So, you know, this is the same thing in Venezuela.
Yes. So they have sanctions in place, don't they? The US has imposed sanctions on Venezuela.
Yes, and a few Venezuelan migrants are returning to Venezuela. The government of Venezuela is providing airplanes, you know, free return on airplanes.
Yes.
So a few Venezuelans are returning to their country.
Yeah, but that's getting a bit far away from Julian Assange.
Yes, I know. Well, you know, as everybody knows, what happened to the report on the Guardian about to me it was a made up story, you know, about the meeting between Manafort and Assange, which was a complete lie. Yes. But you see here on November 15th, those two reporters from the Guardian came to Quito to meet with this CIA guy. You know, he's an informer, and he's an informant for the CIA, Fernando Villavicencio.
Yes.
Yeah, he works full time, and he has an army of government informers throughout all the Ecuadorian government agencies. So he has you know, he doesn't work. His work is to, you know, make false accusations in court. That's what he does. So, so on the Guardian report article about the meeting between Manafort and Assange, they cite sources.
Yes, I'll show you that tweet, but I just showed. You can see your tweet on this, right?
Yes.
Yes.
That picture, that meeting was November 15. So
this you screenshotted a tweet from Fernando.
Yes, that's the guy in the glasses. That's Fernando Villavicencio.
The guy in the middle, this guy here.
Yes, he's a CIA guy.
Yes, and this is Luke Harding, right?
Right, those are the two English reporters.
And this is Stan Collins. the other, yes, the other reporter. So I'll show people the background to that story if they're not familiar with it. Let's see. I'll stop share for a minute. And I'll try and find the WikiLeaks tweet. It's somewhere on here. Okay, I found it finally, sorry. Delay. Oops. Oh, you're back, Kathy, hi. So this is the WikiLeaks.
Yes, I just heard that Luke Harding and the other journalist, I've forgotten his name, is it Dan?
Yes, Dan Collins, is it?
Collins, yeah. So I just heard that they went to Ecuador. That's them in Ecuador.
Yes.
That photo was taken there.
So there's, yes. So the suspicion, obviously, Jose, is that his two sources are from Ecuador.
Yes.
Including this guy who works for the CIA quite openly.
Yes. Yes.
What is his official position, Jose? You say he's an informant for the CIA, but what is his actual official position in Ecuador?
He has no position. He doesn't work. His only job is to open legal cases against the ex-Korea officials. And he has an army of government informers all throughout the Ecuadorian government. So this guy doesn't work. He has all this, and these informers in the Ecuadorian government that are giving him documentation, they will not move with that money.
Right.
But is he
a lawyer?
Yes.
He's
each document has a price, you see. So this guy, that's all he does.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Do you know if he's paid by the government for his services?
No, he does not.
Officially, no.
No.
It's hard to believe he'd be doing it for nothing.
Yeah, that money could also be coming from Miami, you see.
So essentially we have.
Yeah.
So essentially we have a lawyer who appears to be working pro bono.
Yes, that's what he does. That's all he does. I mean, he has many.
For the love of it.
Yes, many legal accusations in court against Korea ex-officials. So he just made another legal accusation against Korea and Jorge Glass.
Okay. What is the latest accusation against Korea?
It's corruption. He's accusing them of corruption, misuse of funds.
Okay. Well, I mean, once bitten, twice shy. I don't think Interpol is going to oblige again, even temporarily.
Right.
They already deemed the first time that in relation to Rafael Correa, it was political persecution.
Yes.
And they weren't going to be used.
Yeah. And as you said, the red alert or Interpol red alert, it's applied only to extreme cases. So, but the government tried to push the Interpol to issue a red alert for Korea. So, so there is a lot of politics, also in the Interpol, that. because they have issued red alerts for people who have not done nothing.
Yeah, it's called a red notice. It's called a red notice, and they issued one for Julian Assange for questioning in Sweden.
Yes, exactly.
So is Korea in that situation? He escaped from that situation, didn't he? So to remind everyone, Correa is the former president of Ecuador, the one who granted asylum to Julian Assange. And now he's in Belgium with his family.
Right.
Because the new president has turned on him and wants to put him in prison if he can, if he comes back to Ecuador. Jose, I just saw a recent interview where Correa said he does not want to go back to be president.
Yes. No, he can't, because as soon as he steps his foot on the Ecuador, he'll be arrested.
But it sounded like even in the future he wouldn't come back.
Yes, the law says that gives you 13 years for the case to lose its I don't know how you call it, prescribe.
Yes.
It takes 13 years for a case to prescribe. So he would have to wait 13 years to come back to Ecuador.
Yes. So so Julian Assange is being kept by Ecuador in the embassy in London, but the president who did it has no realistic prospect of getting back into power. So yeah, it's not very helpful.
It's not so much that Moreno wants people in jail. He just wants them gagged, completely gagged. I mean, the Ecuadorian embassy in London will do, right? That's not a jail. But in fact, he has imposed these conditions on Julian Assange. So there are a number of people that he just wanted shut up, you know. And I think that's why Glaus was put so far away in maximum security, forbidden even visits from his wife. You know, the problem is what they can say. It's not so much that he wants to put them in any particular institution. He just wants them shut up so they can't express any disagreement with his with his reality.
Yes. In the case of Julian Assange, though, the US does want him. Hey, there's another story that you've tweeted on, Jose, and I'll show you the relevant tweet because it relates to Julian and it relates to Ecuador. Can you see that tweet?
Yes.
So the Secretary of
State... you know, yeah, you remember that Valencia resigned from as a foreign relations counselor on Saturday, and on Sunday night he was already traveling to the United States. So Valencia and the foreign minister, the economic minister Martinez, they both travel on an emergency. So here we have all these coincidences, you know, that are showing up, you know, and also that Chevron announcement by Stephen Dosinger.
Yes. Can we do one step at a time though? We're going too fast because people might not be following this as closely as we are, so they might not know. So this is the U.S. Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo.
Yes.
Greeting with
Valencia.
So you said he resigned. Still the Ecuadorian foreign minister.
Yeah, he's the foreign minister of Ecuador.
Okay.
But he's still working, obviously.
Well, he's still the minister, is he or not?
I do not know if he has returned.
Because it says that he's the minister, but you're saying he resigned?
Yes, you see, remember that Lenin Moreno's main Secretary General at the presidential palace was caught stealing money from bank customers. So they, last week, by Friday, they had already shown the evidence at the National Assembly. So he was forced to resign. So this was like on Thursday night, and on Friday, Lenin Moreno asked for the resignation of all the ministers.
Oh, so this is somebody else was forced to resign for corruption, but as a response, the president asked all of his ministers to resign.
Yes, no, they did not resign, all of them. You see, this was just a media show, you know, saying, you know, oh yeah, you know, to try to say, well, Lenin is being trying to solve the problem, and that's why he has, you know, asked the resignation of all the ministers. But I think he just changed 2 ministers only out of 10 or so.
Okay.
So the rest remained. So, you know, this was just a media show by Lenin. That's all he did.
Okay, so there's a media show going on as well. But why did the Ecuadorian foreign minister travel to the US to meet the US Secretary of State? Why?
That's why we must ask ourselves, why would the foreign minister of Ecuador be going to meet on an emergency with Pompeo, which is the Secretary of State? We have no problems of foreign relations with them, you know, in that level. You know, we have commercial relations with the United States. So this meeting is suspicious, you know, and the only link between...
Especially, we need to remember that it was Mike Pompeo last year who stated that WikiLeaks was a non-state foreign intelligence service. And Jeff Sessions said that arresting Assange was a priority. Of course, Jeff Sessions is out of the picture now, but Pompeo has still got his agenda clear. I suppose convincing Ecuador. I don't know if they need convincing, but you know that what they have on their hands is a hostile intelligence service. But you're saying that when Valencia got to America, he was no longer the foreign minister. Is that right? That he'd been replaced already?
That was on because the meeting took place on Monday. Mm-hmm. So by Sunday night, Valencia was reconfirmed by Lenin. But by that time, he had already been in Washington. So you know,
it doesn't really change.
So right. So the only link that we have of foreign relations with Pompeo is Assange. Because there's no other reason why Valencia would have to go and meet Pompeo.
Was it reported as being an emergency meeting?
No, but you see, if he resigns on Saturday, and by Sunday, early Sunday night, he's still he's not a minister of foreign relations, and and he travels to Washington. That means he made an emergency trip, Right. So he was. I think,
Can I? Sorry, I just want to get one thing clear. Are you saying that while he was meeting with Pompeo, at that particular moment he was no longer foreign minister, and then he would be reconfirmed after that? But at the moment of the meeting, he was still resigned as foreign minister.
No, because Valencia resigned on Saturday. And then on Sunday night, Valencia traveled to Washington. And then late on Sunday night, late on Sunday night, Lenin issued a communique reinstating Valencia again in his post.
And when did the meeting happen with Pompeo? Was that Monday?
Monday, yes.
Okay,
Monday.
so he was reinstated before he met Pompeo.
Right. So this was a joke, you see, because Valencia had resigned already. Why would he travel not being the minister anymore of foreign relations to Washington? That's not what I'm saying.
Right, yes.
This is what Edward Snowden, can you see Edward Snowden's tweet?
Yes, I've seen that, yes.
Timing. So that relates to Julian Assange, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. Yes, that's why Snowden tweeted about that. And I have said that before on a tweet also, that there was too much coincidence, you know. A few things were happening on a few days. It was just too much coincidence.
Yes. So what is happening around Snowden, around Julian Assange, that the coincidence relates to? If we can get back to that.
Well, because all the movements are related to Assange, you know, like the remember the court case that against Assange that it was leaked on that document. That is within I think 2 weeks, and then after that comes the you know, all the media you know, reporting on that, and then comes the Valencia trip to Washington. Also, the Chevron thing comes out.
Jose, I just need to correct you. That court case wasn't against Assange. It was Baltasar Garzón and Poveda who were suing Valencia.
Yeah. Yes.
It was against Valencia, that case.
Yes. Well, yeah, I was referring to the U.S. You know, when they leaked that Assange was you know, they leaked by mistake in the court paper in the United States.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, even that.
Yeah, it was within these days. Yeah. So, you know.
Even that hearing, that wasn't against Assange either. That was the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press, who raised a motion to have the charge that had accidentally been copy-pasted from the Eastern District Court of Virginia. So the RCFP, as they call themselves, at RCFP on Twitter. So that was their case.
Can you remind us, Kathy? Can you remind the people who aren't familiar what happened about 2 weeks ago?
So there was in the Eastern District Court of Virginia, there was a woman who worked there. Sorry, I don't recall her name. Who was copying and pasting some text, legal text, and the source of the document that she was copying from was an old case, a very old case. It looks like it was over 7 years old, and that was regarding Assange and the Manning case with Bradley, then Chelsea Manning now, and so there was a lot of speculation about what this charge was about, and of course what hit the media big time was that and everybody thought this was true, especially in America, that it was in relation to the Mueller investigation. But the problem was that it was coming from the wrong court, because there have been 12 Russians indicted already, and all the the Mueller investigation, those indictments are being released from the District of Columbia. Now, anything related to the Russians and the Mueller investigation, nothing related would be filed in a different district, especially a case for collusion with the parties already indicted. So that would just make matters very, very difficult. But yeah, we do know what was happening up until 2013 in the Eastern District Court of Virginia, and there has been nothing there since. The Vault 7 was in New York. So, you know, Washington, D.C. for Mueller, District of Columbia. So what we have in the Eastern District Court of Virginia is two choices. Charlie Savage wrote a great article in the New York Times that explained what America could possibly charge Assange for. There were 4 possibilities. So that was one.
The suspicion, Kathy, is that it's a secret charge, isn't it? That it's a sealed indictment of Julian Assange.
Oh, that's not a suspicion. That's for sure. But yeah, so that I'll just go back to the 4 possibilities. So number 1 was all of the material that Chelsea Manning leaked. So we have Guantanamo, we have the Cablegate, Afghan war logs, some other things as well. That was in 2011, 2010, 2011. And then we have helping Edward Snowden. So even though it was Sarah Harrison who was on site, there was still some investigation going on, into what Assange's role was there, and if he was colluding with Snowden beforehand in terms of. So in both cases, we have 2 intelligence analysts, Manning and Snowden, to prove collusion. Assange would have to instruct in some way on how to breach a secure system, which wouldn't be necessary because both of those whistleblowers had access already. They didn't have to breach the system. And number 2, to instruct both either that or if Assange had instructed Manning or Snowden on which particular files to go after. So that's not collusion, conspiracy, right? Both of those would be conspiracy. With Manning, it was greatly discussed and completely, it's completely unlikely that could be the case. So then after that, we jump forward to 2016. So there is the Mueller investigation. There is also a DNC, the Democratic National Convention, which is Hillary Clinton's party, who have also launched a suit over collusion between Trump campaign, Russia, and WikiLeaks. Now, in terms of the links between Trump campaign and Russia, well, there's loads. They seem to be mainly to do with financial transactions, a bit of corruption, but in terms of any connection, evidence that WikiLeaks was involved in that, well, there still is none, right? So that's a very, very weak case, and it seems that Clinton threw that in to try and get WikiLeaks take down a few birds with the one stone. But that's a very, very weak part of that case. Actually mentioning that Manafort visited the Ecuadorian embassy strengthens it, right? Of course it strengthens it. So he's one of the people who was indicted. So that really does strengthen the belief, if nothing else, that Assange was involved in what is claimed to be Russian hacking. We've seen William Binney show that that's impossible, that the material was copied onto a local USB stick. Couldn't have been going down the internet because the speed of transfer was way too fast. No internet in the world can go that fast. And the rate of transfer, so Binney and other people from veterans and intelligence professionals for sanity, so they're people, former CIA people, intelligence officials even. So they were able to analyze all of the material from Guccifer 2, because that was made public, and so they were able to look at the timestamps of all of that. It's very, yeah, you should listen to what Binney explains, because it's not just that it could only have been copied onto a USB stick. There's you know, the publications are dodgy themselves from Guccifer 2, because there was 2 separate ones, and they're both obvious. Yeah, they found that they're both coming from the same stream, right? So that's really dodgy, and probably from somewhere inside America, several places inside America. So that's all very dodgy. But just getting on to the 4th possibility, and this is the one I mean, a few people, Ray McGovern, for example, believes this is the one that got people very, very angry in the United States. That was Vault 7. So that was unveiling the truth about the CIA's cyber arsenal. Not what it was, because WikiLeaks did not publish the software, right? The tools, the hacking tools for just about everything we use on this planet. CIA could breach it. It wasn't that the news. The news was that somebody had walked out of the building with the entire cyber arsenal, and it was circulating on the black market, perhaps. There was, yeah, they shouldn't have done it in the first place. They should have informed the tech companies about vulnerabilities in their system, people like Apple, Microsoft, etc. But they didn't. They kept all of those vulnerabilities secret so that they could actually penetrate everyone's computer, because everyone's suspicious in this world, right? You and me, and you know, they feel that they've got to look into everybody, and then maybe they fall a bit short of finding real terrorists. But I don't think that that's the purpose. So anyway, it has to be before 2013, right? Because otherwise later, there's nothing in that court, Eastern District Court of Virginia. EDVA, you'll see the acronym sometimes. Now, we knew about an indictment through Stratfor, and now, well, it's pretty likely if there's only one charge, and that could be conspiracy to commit espionage with Chelsea Manning. To get that across, to actually charge Assange with conspiracy to commit espionage, he has to be conspiring with somebody who was charged with espionage. So Chelsea Manning was, and also what was the other thing? Oh yeah, so yeah, that's the only condition. But the problem with that is to actually accuse a publisher of conspiring to commit espionage when they conflating that with the everyday activity of information gathering from sources is an incredibly dangerous thing to do for the First Amendment, because if Assange went down for that, then every single journalist who handles state secrets would be vulnerable to the same prosecution. It might just depend on whether it's a leak that the government like or not. I mean, they bring out official leaks all the time, unnamed sources from Washington, etc. But presumably it's not going to be leaks that they like, and so that means every journalist, and not just in America, because Assange is a foreign national. He has never worked or published in the US. So that sends a signal to every journalist in the world that if they handle American state secrets, the same could happen to them. You're next. Yeah. Assange has been telling the New York Times this for such a long time. Stand up for WikiLeaks or you're next. He was saying that back in 2011. And they just, you know, nobody wanted to believe him. You know, everyone wanted to believe he was a rapist trying to escape charges in Sweden, which we found out 5 years later were totally bogus. But then an even greater danger is like countries like Russia and China might follow suit and decide to go for journalists on espionage. And then in that case, you have United States foreign correspondents that could encounter a lot of trouble from the greatest threat to them might actually come from abroad. And we've seen that, you know, with Jamal Khashoggi. He was a Washington Post journalist, and Saudi Arabia came after him and murdered him in Turkey, actually.
So you're talking about, so the recent news from about 2 weeks ago, is that evidence that there really is a sealed indictment, that everyone knew that already, and you mentioned Stratfor.
Well, no, the world didn't know it because the world kept being told that it was bullshit, that it was paranoia, in fact it was bluff, and that Julian had got asylum under false pretenses, that he was just holed up there to escape rape charges in Sweden. When both women said that they hadn't been raped. Both of the women involved said that Anna Arden actually blasted that out on Twitter, and Sonia Willen actually took off without signing her statement once she realized what they were up to. So you've got both women saying this is bullshit, but the Swedish state prosecution saying we decide what rape is. The women don't decide if it's rape, we decide. Right? That was madness as well. It's just another country now, Ecuador.
So it was always, the reason that Julian Assange was in the embassy was always that he was afraid of the US. So we know that. And do you think it's become...
and that's why Ecuador, that's why Rafael Correa and our beautiful man Patino, he was, I think, foreign minister at the time, so he was the one to announce it as well. Yes. There was a credible threat from the US that he was going to be extradited and to America, and actually not actually charged, just extradited, because they had set treaties in place. For example, when he was, I wrote an article which I was about to publish the night before he went to the Ecuadorian embassy, and Julian's fate there, in the case of sex crimes, especially with foreigners, but in the case of sex crimes, Swedish law was such that that was a pretext for immediate incarceration, even before questioning. So it was just perfect, that one, to get him. As soon as he went to Sweden, he was going to jail, Gothenburg prison, to be clear. And then he would be questioned, probably, you know, one expected within 4 days, but within that time, there was plenty of time for America to request that Sweden loan him under the temporary surrender treaty. So that means that Sweden didn't have to do anything with this bogus case. They could just hand him straight over to America. And I was reading a report which was written by another Italian journalist, not Morizzi, that Julian had learned that his destination, I don't know who the source of this journalist is, he didn't reveal, but Julian had learned on the 15th of June 2012 that his destination was Texas, and the death penalty would be called for. And that's pretty well why he ran there. But Ecuador did the right thing. Just talking about the UK as well. Why does he not have to be actually charged at all? Because the UK doesn't require a prima facie case from America on an extradition request. not the same the other way around. British have to have a case if they want someone extradited from the US, but not with Britain. So it's streamlined with both the UK and Sweden. It was streamlined that they could just shoot Assange straight through to America, and then he could go to somewhere like Guantanamo. The National Defense Authorization Act was changed on the 31st of December 2011, and that enabled America to arrest any citizen of any country, anywhere, and detain them indefinitely without charge if they were a terrorism suspect. And if you recall, the soundbite coming out of Washington late 2010 was high-tech terrorist, high-tech terrorist, high-tech terrorist. They were calling him a high-tech terrorist in order to make his case fit into the amendment that came right at the end of 2011, to be able to just detain him indefinitely without any charge. Julian can go there. I mean, when Ecuador considered all of these factors in 2012, they were all in place, that he didn't stand a chance. He still doesn't stand a chance. If he walks out of that embassy, we very quickly, I think one of our vigil guests said 5 minutes, and he will be arrested by British police, taken to custody, extradited, and possibly never charged, or possibly, I mean, it could be a big scandal if he's charged with, it's the death penalty. If the death penalty is called for. But the point is that Julian Assange makes as well, that it doesn't even have to come to court. They don't have to face that First Amendment challenge. Releasing this indictment that was just accidentally, stupidly, but fortuitously copy-pasted, that would have blown it all out into the open. And we could have brought that on, that First Amendment. I mean, Julian had a very, very strong First Amendment case. If that charge was brought out, it was probably over fairly quickly. So that's why it's so significant, because everything has been put in place for no justice for Julian.
Yeah, actually, I'll show you the tweet from WikiLeaks. That really makes that point. This is so this also relates to RCFP. You talked about that, Kathy. That's the Press Foundation, isn't it?
Yes, Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press.
Yes. So what this relates to is that about 2 weeks ago, that seemingly accidentally leaked part of the Assange case was released in public, accidentally, seemingly. And now they're saying in response to that, well, since we already know about it, shouldn't the sealed indictment against Julian Assange be made public? This is
no way. And I do believe, no way, because that spoils everything. So I do actually firmly believe that it was a stupid mistake, and because it didn't go to the United States' advantage at all. They made the most of it, by pretending it was in relation to the Mueller investigation to keep the hatred swelling, blaming Julian for Trump. All these people who say that Julian favored Trump and, he's ruined American democracy and all that kind of thing. They are these supporters of Democrats, the supporters of Hillary Clinton and the DNC. They won't even go near the Podesta emails to read what is in there. It's cognitive dissonance, territory. If they went and read what the heroine Hillary Clinton had done in Libya, for example, that she had been selling arms as well that ended up in the hands of ISIS. She had been doing deals, accepting money from the Clinton for the Clinton Foundation, but there was this was from the people who were arming ISIS, right? And also there was a lot of pay for play with other countries as well. I think maybe Tunisia was one of them. So there was, awful things in there, but those people just don't want to look at that material. They prefer to remain ignorant and not realize how lucky they were that a lot of people did.
Yes. Yes. If I can come back to this this news, this is significant because everything relating to Julian Assange comes back to this court that you talked about, Eastern District of Virginia, and specifically one judge who's called Leonie Brinkema, who and this one judge has tried has tried all the espionage cases against whistleblowers, and every single one has been a conviction. And this tweet goes back to what John Kiriakau said, actually on a UNTPJ vigil. John Kiriakau is a CIA anti-torture whistleblower who was put in prison by Judge Brinkema for blowing the whistle on illegal activity by the CIA. He's a waterboarding. Yes. And I'll actually play this clip if I can, because it's only about 2 minutes, and it shows how stacked the deck is against Julian Assange.
Correct.
So this is from our picture. Oh, can you hear
that? Bruce, you have to get out of that again and then click on the little box at the bottom, share your computer audio. Remember we ran into that problem?
Sorry. Share computer sound.
Just choose the browser as well.
The espionage court.
So now you can hear it, right?
Either Julian has been indicted in the Eastern District of Virginia, or that a grand jury has been impaneled in the Eastern District of Virginia. The reason why this would be done in the Eastern District rather than in Washington, D.C. or in any other district in the country is that the Eastern District of Virginia is known as the espionage court. No national security defendant has ever won a case there, ever. I was tried there. Ed Snowden was charged there. Jeffrey Sterling was charged there. We've all had our cases in the Eastern District of Virginia. There's one judge in particular, Judge Leonie Brinkema, who reserves all of these cases for herself. So she's been the judge for all of us, and we were all found guilty. Beyond that, she made it literally impossible to mount a defense, because every time we would motion the court to allow us to declassify information necessary to defend ourselves, she denied the motion. She denied 72 of my motions and approved 0. We were walking out of the courtroom one day, and I said to my attorney, "What just happened?" And my attorney said, "We just lost the case. That's what happened." Well, Julian is looking at the same kind of outcome. If he's forced out of that embassy and extradited to the United States, he cannot get a fair trial. It's impossible, because the deck is stacked, and everybody knows what's going to happen if he comes back to the Eastern District of Virginia. This is the same advice I gave Ed Snowden. Don't come home, because you can't get a fair trial here. Julian doesn't have the choice, and that's what frightens me even more.
Yeah, and that's so important to hear from you, from your perspective.
The rumor is...
So there it is. Yes, that's just amazing.
And I will remind people that, in fact, it is the grand jury that is linked to the espionage court. And it has always been said about the grand jury that they would indict a ham sandwich. It's a very famous quote that I think I heard John Pilger first say, and then Julian, but lots of other people. But it is backed up with what John Kiriakau has just said now. By the time they have finished deliberating, and they can take years, it's a secret grand jury. We're not supposed to know about its very existence.
You should put your mouthpiece down, Kathy.
Oh, yeah. So, as I said before, the one always said that the grand jury, which is linked to the espionage court, would indict a ham sandwich. Now, there is a kind of a universal blanket law that applies to other countries as well. So our foreign minister back at that point in time was called Bob Carr, and we were trying to find out for sure, you know, get him to confirm that there was a grand jury investigation, even though it's been reported many times. But he was actually gagged. Our foreign minister was gagged by American law, so he could neither confirm nor deny. And of course, Bob Carr's known for a long time. We've all pretty well known. But a couple of weeks ago, we saw the evidence for the first time. And that's why we wanted it out in the open bit. But, you know, once again, it's chilling to hear what Kiriakau says, that no one has ever been successful in that court and that they can't even get information, exculpatory evidence released. So that kind, you know, and the other thing is that what else can't be discussed is the whistleblowers' motivations, the reasons that they did it, that there were war crimes. All of that was never talked about. No.
Yes. So that's, I mean, that's, I think, a quote from John Kiriakau. He doesn't have a chance. So that's a reply to, there was an Australian, I think, defence analyst or someone who got a lot of airplay in Australia saying he should just face the music if he's innocent. And well,
it's not really music, is it? It's just one single note.
No,
it's been one single note the whole time. And the thing is that why America wouldn't have wanted to unseal that indictment was that would actually oblige them more or less to go through with it, to take that to court. Now, if they don't, then they can continue to maintain the threat of extradition without actually going through with it. You know, Ecuador has obliged and turned Julian's place of refuge into a prison. So to be, you know, quite frank, it doesn't really, it's not a win if Julian walks out of there, really. I mean, they've already won. It makes, really, it's up to Julian to decide which cell he wants to occupy. It's either going to be there, where he is, where it's a bloody cell now, solitary confinement most of the time, where he is alone for probably the majority of the time. He's utterly alone. And Stefania Maurizi went to see him just recently. It's a very, very, maybe you could get that one up,
yes,
Maurizi visit, because she said that he had lost weight. That was the first thing they noticed, too much weight.
I'll share some pictures as you talk. There you go, there's a tweet. I'll read it, eh?
Yes.
After
Yes.
8 months, Stephanie Maurizi of La Repubblica, her newspaper, were finally granted permission to visit the WikiLeaks founder in the embassy of Ecuador. I was shocked to realize his heavy isolation and inhuman conditions.
Well, she goes on in the article, right at the beginning of the article, she describes what he looks like immediately. He'd lost too much weight, and even his winter jumper didn't hide the fact that he is skin and bones now.
Here it is. Yeah, she actually tweeted it out as well. Do you want to read it, Kathy?
Sure.
Well, here it is.
Can you just
Oh,
screen share it?
Oh,
I'll read it if you screen share.
I'm sorry, I thought it was screen sharing. Sorry, I have to screen share.
Yes, I was shocked to see the WikiLeaks founder has lost a lot of weight. Too much. He is so skinny. Not even his winter sweater can hide his skinny shoulders. Right.
Yes.
That's the English translation, yeah, because it was published in Italian. But Stefania Maurizi has been doing wonderful work because it was her Freedom of Information requests that revealed the interference in the course of justice by the British Crown Prosecution Service. A lot of evidence had been shredded, deleted, not shredded because it was electronic, but there was enough released there to discover that for some unknown reason, no legal reason whatsoever, Crown Prosecution Service were telling Marianne Nye, the Swedish prosecutor, not to come to London to question him and not to drop the case. And Sweden, also we learned that Sweden wanted to drop the case in 2013. Now, when I first read that, the penny didn't drop, but then I remembered what happened in 2013. So the Swedish Chief Justice, Stefan Lindskog, came to Australia and did a talk. And in fact, during the Q&A, that was in Adelaide, at the University of Adelaide, and there were other people speaking on that panel. Queen's Counsellor called Julian Burnside, who's always been a great supporter and lawyer, you know, who was helping Julian. But they, you know, the university never put out their what they had to say. But the thing is that I had people there in Adelaide who were recording the whole thing. And so I managed to get the whole thing out. Now, during question time, Lindskog let it slip that there was no legal basis for Sweden not going to London. Under Swedish law, there was no legal justification. So that kind of made headlines. You know, when we got that out, WikiLeaks picked it up and have used it as evidence of miscarriage of justice. But it was a great source of embarrassment to Sweden that their Chief Justice had actually said that there were no legal reasons for this delay. So I think that was the pressure that made Sweden eager to drop the case back then. And you have the Crown Prosecution Service sending an email to Marianne Nye saying, "Don't drop it, hang in there, keep it going." And she kept it going for another, this slanderous case, these slanderous allegations, and was nothing more than that, for another 4 years.
Yes.
And they got mileage out of that, where, you know, everybody was, you know, thinking rape, and you had a lot of women in the world who, you know, who despised. There was, even when Julian spoke at Oxford University, at the Oxford Union, there were protests, you know, about his sexual misconduct. However, you know, when it all came out in the dirty washing, John Pilger, when he did his talk in Sydney earlier this year, not so long ago, I think it was about July, or maybe just before, which I filmed, he read out a letter from one of the world's most prominent feminist groups to say that they were appalled that they had been used, that their movement had been used to vilify a great journalist. That was a highlight, I believe, of John Pilger's speech.
Wow. And yes, as you say, Stefania Maritzi is a wonderful journalist, and she's exposed a lot of, she's been wonderful in exposing a lot of material. But I'll just read this tweet as well, because...
well, sorry, one more thing, that the Iraq war logs, they were given to Stefania Maritzi. Julian flew to Berlin to meet with Maritzi, yes. Yeah, so she's been in there for a very long time. Her newspaper has been I'm just thinking if it was El País at the time, but Maritzi was definitely the journalist, you know, in an association with WikiLeaks for co-publication of all of that material, along with Washington Post, New York Times, Der Spiegel in Germany. Yes. But in Italy as well, it was Maritzi, the journalist, and she met up with Assange in relation to the war logs.
Yeah, she's a wonderful journalist. I admire her very much. And,
yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'll read this tweet. I also want to get back to you, Jose. I mean, I've got quite a lot of things that have happened that I haven't really covered. We haven't really covered yet. So, but I'll just read this. Getting back to Julian's condition. Julian's long hair and beard make him look like a hermit, but not a nutter. As we exchange greetings, he seems very lucid and rational. This regime of complete isolation would have broken anyone down. Yet Julian is holding up. So wow, it's what are they doing to him?
Well, look, I can just imagine how Christine Assange felt when she read that, because you know, in her interview back on August 9th, she was already expressing deep concern about his health. A team of doctors have also said that his health he's in a dangerous condition.
Yes.
And now that Maurizi who is a journalist we can fully trust, has actually cited him and confirmed that he has lost that much weight. Christine said that they are slowly killing him. He will die.
Yes, that's what they're trying to do. Hey, Jose, I'll show you. That's been done in the embassy of your country. And I will show you the foreign minister of your country has been lying. Let's see, here's a tweet. Can you, hey, Jose, are you still there? I'm sorry the conversation's moved away from you so much.
Yeah.
But this has just been reported. You mentioned this lady before, Kathy, Hannah Johansson.
Yes.
Ecuador's foreign minister is lying. Valencia, who we were just talking about, denied the fact Assange was refused to visit six lawyers for 8 months. The lie was exposed through Foreign Ministry's admission and a letter to the German parliamentarian. And it's just terrible. If you read the actual admission, the foreign minister denied any such restriction had been imposed. Absolutely not, he said. Not at all. He has not had a single restriction. It is an invention. Maybe he is confused. So...
Well, that's just bullshit. I mean, we've seen the actual document that lays out all the conditions, you know.
Yes. Yes.
Are we just supposed to forget about that?
Yes, and is it all right if I go through a bit more of the news that's happened this week? Because I have some tweets lined up. I just let's see. Okay, I'm going to go through several stories, but I'll do a screen share so that you can see. So there have been a lot of articles. The publicity has really raised up a notch, and particularly in the past week. So this is a very an interview that's been given a lot of coverage between Chris Hedges and Joe Lauria, who both have been on Unity for J Vigils. So that's something that I would recommend to people. And if you go
yeah, may I just, before you move on, may I just comment on that? Because I have watched it. And Joe Lauria actually points out that, because it's very important, that besides conspiracy to commit espionage, there is actually a provision in the Espionage Act of 1917, you know, which has been brought back from the dead, to actually prosecute anybody who is in possession of state secrets. It's just never been used successfully. It has been used, and in fact, it was, what's his name? Sheehan, his second name is Sheehan, from Neil Sheehan, who was actually the publisher of the Pentagon Papers, right? So, you know, not many people realize that, you know, after Daniel Ellsberg escaped possibly the death sentence,
Yes.
after that, they went after the New York Times for publishing it, and the individual who bore the brunt of that was Neil Sheehan. but in fact, it was unsuccessful.
Was there an actual
it was
court
just.
case, was there?
Pardon?
Was there an actual court case?
Yes, yes.
Wow.
It failed. It failed. Actually, maybe it didn't even get as far as that, but it was the First Amendment that knocked it down. You cannot, prosecute a journalist for being in possession of state secrets. It just doesn't work anymore. The whole First Amendment collapses if you do that. But the legislation is there in the Espionage Act. So they could actually go for Julian that way, but it would be a very, very foolish move, because then every journalist is in danger, as I said before.
Okay, I'll just share another one, because there are quite a few. So much has happened. So this is from a week ago. So Pamela Anderson has really raised the profile in Australia of Julian Assange, which has been wonderful for Australians, and she's doing so well with it. So this is a tweet from the 22nd that the Australian Prime Minister, really needs to apologise for abandoning an Australian the UN has twice found to be illegally detained. So that's a tweet from the 22nd, and again.
One more little comment that I would add about that. So Pam Anderson's interview, the initial one, and then her return, she came back, was on a show called 60 Minutes, which has a very, very big audience in Australia. It's on one of our commercial channels. And 60 Minutes put out a survey on Twitter straight after her interview. It was only, for a matter of hours, but there was a really huge response. So there was finally there was about 7,000 people who voted on a question: should Julian be allowed to come back to Australia? Now, it was a bit of a dodgy question, because of course he's an Australian citizen. There's no reason why, and he hasn't committed any crime, so there's no reason why he shouldn't. But that's the way it was put to the Australian people. And in the end, 92% of Australians said yes. That's how much support there is from the Australian people now, a fairly large cross-section of mainstream media viewers, not the independent sector. This is the mainstream. So, and there is like a lot of support now growing in Australia for Julian. People get, like, once they're catching up on what's been happening here, they're just outraged. They can't believe what's been happening to Julian. They were led to believe all these things, that he was a rapist, and as they find out that was all bogus. Yes, there are charges, and he's what's happening, he's being tortured. Australians, everyday Australians are waking up, and they are really outraged. And our Prime Minister is not particularly popular, but he's just blown it with all of the school children who are walking out, a 3-day walkout from school children all around the country over climate change. And he's the guy who appeared in Parliament holding a lump of coal. He's part of the Trump's beautiful clean coal brigade, right? Yes. Who is pushing a world leader who is pushing for fossil fuels. And in Australia, renewable energies have been getting hammered. Yeah, yes. Defunded.
But Kathy, on this topic, on this topic.
But
are you very pleased with Pamela Anderson? I mean, I'm super impressed with her. I think she's done a wonderful job.
Well, yes. So the thing was that in response to Pamela's first plea for Julian, Scott Morrison made an extremely lewd remark that he had a number of his mates who were getting in contact with them, that they were volunteering to go and sort out Pamela Anderson. It was disgusting. So there was a big outcry in Australia. Unfortunately, the loudest voices were just complaining about how our Prime Minister treats women in general. right? Which isn't good. That's not good. But a lot of people didn't even mention what Pamela had been trying to say or who she had been trying to plea for them. Julian didn't even get a mention. So then there was a second wave of people saying, hey, you know, what do you mean? Like, if you're not respecting this woman either by hijacking her message for your cause, right? So 60 Minutes ended up inviting Pamela back, and they invited back they invited the Prime Minister to come on and clear the air, and he refused. So Pamela got another go for 8.5 minutes. Now, they did ask her about other things as well, about her work as an animal rights activist, and also bushfires in her home state of California, Malibu. But for probably nearly 3 minutes, she was allowed to talk about Julian, and she did wonderfully. Yes, she was a champ. It was brilliant. I actually cut down the highlights of her, you know, the gist of her message, her plea. I cut that into a little 2-minute film, actually. So wonderful. Not all of what she said, but it was a little bit of a repeat because she got asked the same question twice, essentially. So I managed to get it under 2 minutes and then put that on Twitter, and that's had a lot of views. But Pamela was brilliant, very articulate.
Excellent. I see. I'm sort of feeling bad that the conversation has drifted away from you so much. Is there anything else you want to talk about relating to?
Yeah, just one last thing. Remember that tomorrow there is a big protest of the students, university students and other groups that they're going to protest tomorrow. So I will keep you updated on the tweets. And that's all I have to say for today.
Yes.
So I will say good night to you all.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you very much for coming on.
Good night.
Yes. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to go as well. I had an appointment at 1. I put it off till 3. Yes. So I've got to rush now to get there on time.
Oh, okay.
So take it's care. Bye from me as well.
Oh, bye from you then.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Whoa, so Kitty, are you still there? Kitty? Oh, gee, maybe we would be. Kitty's running the stream, so she's quite busy. So, what I will do is just I'll finish up with some of the news stories that have been going on in the past week. So much has been happening in the past week around Julian. So I'll go back to screen share, and
I'm here.
Hi, Kitty.
Sorry about that.
I did want to thank you. That clip from John Kiriakau, that was your doing, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I was looking at videos. I was following your suggestion, actually, where I was looking at videos and trying to find ones that were interesting. Because, yes. You know, we want to get more relevant kind of material onto the Unity for J stream. And, you know, so I was picking videos by Kiriakau and Binney and, you know, the really big names. And I came across this one, and I thought, oh my God, he starts out right at the beginning, and it was perfect. It was just perfect in terms of these leaks. And even, I actually did the video before this, before the leaks. And it's just because the issue all the time keeps coming up.
Yes.
You know, what would happen to Julian Assange if he, and we've been getting, creeping closer and closer to the situation that we're at now, where he's on the verge of something happening. Yes. And it's really just a question of waiting. You know, I think the only delays have been because of the RCPF trial hearing to unseal the charges. And the hearing in Ecuador against, I think it was
the foreign minister.
Yeah, no, I don't think it was the foreign minister. It's the person who was trying to get his citizenship removed.
Oh, that lady.
Isn't that the person it's against, or is it against the person who created the document?
I'm not sure.
Maybe the same person. But yeah, I don't think anything will actually happen until those two cases we get outcomes. Unfortunately, in both the cases, the outcomes seem to me to be pretty predictable.
Yes.
And that is with Brinkema, thanks to Mr. Kiriakau, we have some really good insight, because that video gives us perfect insight into Brinkema and how the espionage court works and exactly what his experience was in it. I don't expect, my prediction is that she is not going to unseal the charges. And what is happening right now is just she's putting on a big show that she's looking at the issue, but it's a preconceived, decision. And then with the, the Ecuador situation, the Constitutional Court was disbanded, and everybody was fired just before Assange was able to file that claim. They delayed and delayed and delayed. Apparently the lawyers were trying to file it for months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and there was all kinds of issues being thrown in the way. And just before, right after Lenin got rid of the entire court and got rid of all the judges, that's when the lawyers were able to file it. And I don't recall the specifics, but it's in one of the interviews with Jen Robinson, I think, where she mentions that that they have actually been trying to do this for months, because somebody asked her. That's the first thing that comes to mind, right?
Yes, it does, yeah.
So
I don't agree with you. They have no chance, really, because the judiciary is so corrupted in Ecuador.
Yeah, and now we have a constitutional court there that is all handpicked by Marino, right? So yeah. They're not going to get anywhere with that. So we're kind of, it's just a matter of waiting. We know, I think the outcomes are pretty obvious.
Yeah.
And after this Constitutional Court has given a ruling, that's when they'll make their move.
The US.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think so.
Yes.
That's just my feeling on and there's no facts to back it up. It's just my reading of the situation, basically.
Yeah, but I did want to thank you for putting out that little segment that is so wonderful, because as you say, these issues of Julian Assange are coming to the forefront now, and the public's getting very interested in them, and it's important to get the best responses, and that is a wonderful response. That just kills the argument that Julian Assange might get a fair trial.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, Kiriakau summed it up in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Excuse me. That was brilliant.
Yes, and I think we have like a responsibility and to do that with other aspects relating to Julian, like what WikiLeaks does and things like that. If we can get out the richness of our tweets our videos and Julian's speeches and everything, we can make a better case to the public, you know, in support of Julian. And
well, this is, if you've been watching our Twitter stream in the last week, you will have noticed that we are focusing quite a bit on that.
Excellent.
Yeah, I got all of the Julian Assange show series has all been tweeted. I did a focus on it on Sunday. So 12 shows, 12 hours, right?
Wow. Have you watched them?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're interesting. They're really, really, there's an early interview between Assange and Korea, which is, you know, very, very interesting. And there was one with the cypherpunks. And the cypherpunks are Julian Assange's roots.
Yes.
This, where he was born as the person that he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm just sharing that Korea show.
Oh yeah, this is it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's highly recommended. That's a wonderful episode.
The other one that's good is episode 11 with Chomsky.
Oh yes.
And Chomsky is a personal hero, I think, of Julian Assange's. At least that's the impression that I get, and it's a really great video. The one with the there's I think it was episode 3 or 2 that has 2 people in it, and I don't recall their names. But the intro was so cool because in the intro he says, here we have this person who was left-wing as a young person and supporting communism and now has become right-wing. And then we have this other person who started out right-wing and now has become left-wing and a communist. And apparently, you know, they're yelling and screaming and talking calmly. That was how the intro went.
Is that the one with Zek in it? This is episode 2 here?
Episode 2. Yes, it's Horowitz and Zizek.
Oh,
and that is just hilarious because he's right. That's exactly what they're doing. And it reminds me so much of what's going on right now with people yelling at Unity for J and calling us all Nazis because we, you know, allegedly support the alt-right, which is not what we're doing. But anyway. So it's kind of like, it just reminded me of the current situation and how we're having this argument. It's not even a discussion. It's people just getting really mad at each other, you know, for perceptions, right? Not even reality. It's all perceptions. But it's perceptions of who is right-wing, who is left-wing, and, you know, what we believe that the others believe and all of this stuff. So those were a great bunch of videos. And then we're still looking. Christy has come up with some great ones. She's been finding Julian Assange talking on Late Line and other interviews. I'm trying to remember the specific ones, and I cannot, but she's been finding some really good ones. We found the Oslo Freedom Forum talk.
Oh, yes, yes.
And when you realize, the other thing was that we have a new tweet that just kind of got inspired when I saw Paula say that she had gone to the library and she had been putting Julian Assange bookmarks in books so that people would just open the book and find them.
Yes.
And I got inspired and I thought, why aren't people requesting the library order books by Julian Assange?
Oh yes, I saw those tweets. Yeah, wonderful idea.
because I worked in libraries, and I know that at one time anyway, anybody could walk into your library, show your library card, and say, I want to put in a request for this book, and they would automatically order it. There was never any questions asked. If you wanted the book, the library ordered it. I don't know if they do that now still, because budgets might have changed that policy, but worth a try.
Yes.
So we're trying to come up with different things anyway.
Yes. There's a couple of points from that, but moving the public perception, it's wonderful that we're starting to get the material out like you're doing. And I would like to do a plug for the Pinterest that in particular Fleur's working on. And I'll do a screen share if that's all right. Well,
oh, absolutely.
Sorry.
Pinterest actually has a list of all the books.
Yes. So I'll show the Pinterest. And highly commend this to people. This has been done largely by Fleur, who's in Unity for J. She's one of the moderators along with us, and it's a wonderful library. So the website is www.pinterest.nz/unity4j/boards / and there are 37 boards and covering all the different areas related to Julian Assange. So this is a wonderful resource to just browse through. And I'll show the two most relevant ones that you've just been talking about. Books. This is Julian Assange's books. And actually, Kitty, I saw that you did a tweet with this book showing, right?
Well, just because that's my favorite. That's the one I bought. That's the one I read. It's my favorite.
Oh, wow. Oh, so Underground. So there are 8 books, all by Julian Assange, I think. Oh, actually, this was the ladies of WikiLeaks or something like that?
Yeah, Women of WikiLeaks. There's actually more books on Amazon. If you go to Amazon, there's more there. The list I gave is from Amazon.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
So that's the books one. And you talk about his speeches. Speaking, 187 pins. This is a wonderful resource.
Yeah.
So, and I'm trying to see if these are in chronological order. Oh, but the first pin is an index, a work in progress, but it's already wonderful. So I will click on that and go to it.
It looks like she has tried to do a chronological order with the most recent first.
Yes. So this is a list of all the different speeches that are pinned here. So it's absolutely wonderful. Let's see. Don't need that. So the index is the first one, but all of these are different speeches. Yes, it does seem. Yeah, November 27th, 2018 is the most recent one. Yeah, I was looking.
Are these speeches as well as? Oh yes, they are. Yeah, so she's combined.
They're all speeches. 187 speeches, pretty much all by Julian Assange, I think. So his speeches, and a lot of them are just wonderful. And I wanted to find out what his earliest speeches were, and I go back to 2009. He was because WikiLeaks were pretty secretive. He didn't do interviews or anything like that. I think his first actual interview was like 2010. But so I just show how it works. So there's 187 speeches. You can go to any pin, and you can click on the pin to go to the YouTube link. I just show how this works.
US intelligence, they don't like to
So I'm not sure that you can even hear that because I'm not sure if I have audio.
Yeah, I can hear it.
But isn't that wonderful? There's such a great resource, and you can go through them. Actually, I'm playing some of them, and I'm hearing some of his well-known quotes.
Oh yeah, exactly. And there's a few quotes that I've come across on Anon memes, you know, for Anonymous.
Yes.
And I didn't realize they were him.
Oh.
I had no, and now I'm realizing, I'm making the connection between the two. He actually had a fair amount of influence in Anonymous in the early days. Yeah.
And I think you've started doing it, is that you play a speech and you find a really nice quote in it. And,
yes.
And you've been tweeting the quote along with the speech, right?
Yes, yes. It takes a lot of time. That's the only problem. So,
yeah,
you know, you can't do it a lot. With the Cypherpunks series, not the Cypherpunks, but with the Julian Assange show series, I just took a segment of the introduction. So that whole series was really easy to do.
Yes.
Because the intro was, you know, just a couple of minutes right at the beginning. But with the other ones, it's a bit harder because you have to listen to enough of the show to get a good quote, right?
Yes, but you can enjoy the speeches. They're so interesting. And I would commend that to anyone watching this and saying, what can we do to really help? And that really raises the profile of Julian and it humanizes him as well. To do that. And
well, I think a lot of the people too who are supporting WikiLeaks and they're supporting the concept are relatively new. So they don't actually necessarily know what his philosophy was, what kind of environment he came out of, and what kind of thought processes went into the creation of WikiLeaks. And a lot of these really early videos show that. They show you who he is as a person. They show you what his thinking was, what his concerns were about the world, what he envisioned for WikiLeaks and for, you know, because he really had a very comprehensive philosophy in terms of what he wanted to accomplish. And it's an educational thing for all of these people who are actively supporting him now, and you know, they have an opportunity to get to know him. And I think they're the ones mostly who will be listening to these. So.
Yes. I'll show you another interesting tweet from WikiLeaks that's just come out, which relates to this topic. It's very interesting. I'll just share it, screen share it. Can you see that? Request from WikiLeaks. This is the 26th, so just 3 days ago. There's so much media interest in ongoing legal and diplomatic developments with Julian Assange's detention that our lawyers can't meet the demand. So much interest in Julian that the lawyers can't meet the demand. We're compiling a list of knowledgeable, presentable, independent commentators on the issues involved. Suggestions?
Yeah, it was excellent, and the suggestions have been very good.
Were you were probably on it. Did anyone?
Oh no, I don't think so. I don't have the kind of information, and I would not be seen on camera either. I won't go on camera, as you know.
Yes.
So you know, you pretty much have to be prepared to go on camera with most of these things. So.
Yes.
So no, I wouldn't be. Plus, I also don't know in a lot of the cases. I'm not an American, so I don't know the inside workings of American politics and the American legal system and stuff. That's where people like Kiriakau and Thomas Drake and William Binney, they will have amazing insights that way. And they also know what he's going to be, you know, coming up against. The other people are people like Craig Murray in the UK.
Yes.
And I'm trying to think of who a good, Greg Barnes. Well, Greg Barnes is his lawyer.
Yes.
But I think there was somebody else in Australia as well that wasn't one of his lawyers. Anyway, there's Simon Floth and people like that who, have been around. I mean, Simon Floth, I think, was one of the was there in the very, very early days of WikiLeaks creation, and so he will probably have lots of interesting insights. So depending on what the media is interested in, there's lots of really effective speakers out there.
Yes. Yes. And it also goes to, we can also help with that process by answering some of the questions that are commonly addressed. Oh, and someone asked, this relates to what Paul, a guy named Paul who is in Unity for J on the Discord and also on the YouTube chat streams. Paul, I forget your name, I'm sorry. Joe's back, hi. But Paul asked, should we respond to trolls with Julian Assange? And
sorry, go ahead.
Well, it got me thinking about it because they're trying to distract you, and there are more trolls than there are us, but there are professional trolls at a high level who are the three-letter agency heads who retire and then go into the news media, like Brennan and Hayden, who spout this nonsense about Julian Assange. So if wherever that's reported on Twitter or YouTube, if we have replies ready, like the Kiriakau clip, thought out replies with references that they can follow. Like that Kiriakau clip kills dead the narrative of people who say he'll get a fair trial, so he should just face the justice system. So
yeah, that's something to keep in mind for sure. When we're collecting material, yeah, that's another good idea. Yeah, I do keep your ideas in mind. Our problem is time, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to do it. It just means that we have to, fit it in, right?
Well, and encourage other people. Like anyone could do that with the Julian Assange speeches. So
yes,
what I would suggest is take maybe 5 times the length of the speech and say, do you have that much free time to just take your time and enjoy the speech, and then tweet out or put on Facebook your favorite quotes from that speech. And it will really help Julian, because a lot of people can do that, and they'll be pretty good tweets and pretty good.
And if they tag Unity for J, we will RT them all.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Absolutely. We'll RT them. And one of the really nice things, Blair is already doing that, actually. She's doing a quote of the day every day.
Oh, yes. I remember that now, yes.
Yeah, so we've been RTing that. I look for it now so that I can RT it.
That's very cool, yes. So Blair, who was it again? It was...
Fleur is the one who created Pinterest for us.
Oh, Fleur.
Fleur,
oh,
sorry.
Sorry, I understood. Oh, I can show you. So I actually have... I'll screen share again. Let's see. So this is what you're talking about, right? Well,
no, she's done she does a tweet called "Quote for the Day."
Oh, okay.
And there's a Julian Assange. I'll see if I can find one. There's a Julian Assange quote in it, and it's just a really fantastic idea. I mean, I've been looking for them for the sole purpose of RTing them because they're so good. Yes. And this is something that everyone could do as well. You read a speech, you give us the link to the speech, you do the quote and have one single quote every day, and it would be absolutely lovely. I'm just going to check her account. I'm trying to remember what her handle is. Oh, there it is.
That's wonderful for Fleur. While you're doing that, I'll show yet a third thing that Fleur is doing that's wonderful, which if someone has good graphics experience, this is really helpful. This is not Julian Assange's speech, but this actually I will play it because it's a very well-known lawyer and whistleblower herself named Jessica Raddick.
The witch hunt intensified with the historic, earth-shattering revelations of WikiLeaks, a publishing organization committed to transparency, which published the largest trove of secret documents in the history of the world, those disclosed by Private Chelsea Manning. Under the extraordinary leadership of Julian Assange, himself under a sealed U.S. indictment and in his own virtual imprisonment in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, WikiLeaks has literally changed the face of journalism, been an unfailing supporter of all whistleblowers, and redefined transparency in the digital age. The U.S., however, has tried in myriad ways to criminalize whistleblowing and reporters associated with it in order to send a chilling message to anyone even thinking of speaking truth to power.
So that is a wonderful speech from Jessalyn. He's very well known in her own right. And there are so many ways you can help Julian. And one of them is retweeting. When you find a gem like this, just retweet it, amplify it. So that helps Julian a lot. And Fleur took it. I tried to help a little bit. I found the YouTube video that it came from because her link wasn't a good link. But Fleur, of course, she did the Pinterest. She knows all the YouTube links as well. And she actually did a graphic.
Really that's great.
Graphic, beautifully done. Her graphics are very good. So that's another way. If you're good at graphics, you can do a graphic as well. And Fleur is very good at the scientific journalism that Julian Assange also talks about, and that Fleur always leaves the links, and she likes to give dates and specifics.
Yes.
So a tweet like this is very powerful. It's a good quality tweet that really should be amplified by a lot of people. If you find a tweet this nice, please retweet it about Julian.
I put a link in chat for one of Flair's quote of the day tweets.
Oh, okay. I actually, yes, I'll come to that. First of all, I'll show another graphic that she did. It also relates back to Stefania Marizzi, who we talked about earlier, who visited Julian Assange and is a wonderful journalist and has helped Julian in a whole lot of ways. And Fleur found a very nice tweet. It was just a tweet from Stefania that Fleur liked the look of, and so Fleur quoted it as a very nice graphic. So if you find it a nice comment or quote from someone, even just a tweet, she can add value to it. And I'll read it out. On why the US-UK military-industrial complex perceives Julian Assange and WikiLeaks as an existential threat. This is why they go after them so hard. And this is what Stefania says, who's a journalist very familiar with WikiLeaks. They fear a domino effect. They realize inside the US intel, there are many people who have seen all sorts of abuses. They are terrified there could be hundreds of Chelsea Mannings. So they try to brutalize whistleblowers to the fullest extent they can to warn off anybody else.
Yeah.
So I'll go back into the chat to get your tweet. Okay, so if I just click
That's actually kind of an important point. I tweeted months ago a tweet posing the question, will this generation be the whistleblower generation?
Yes.
And I really think that they are. They will, they are. It's not even a question of will be. The millennials are going to be the whistleblower generation.
Yeah, that's what's going to save Julian Assange in the long run, isn't it?
I think so.
His philosophy of justice through transparency, if that sinks into the population, if we can spread that, and if that sinks into the population in general and becomes popular because it's so powerful, he will be the hero that he deserves to be, and he will, with public acceptance and even public admiration, like Edward Snowden has, particularly outside the US, that will save Julian in the long run. But I'll go to your tweet now that you did. I'll do a screen share of the tweet that you did of Fleur. So Fleur, today's Julian Assange quote. And she does the quote and a full reference to it with the date and the YouTube link so that you can play it.
If she's not a librarian, she should be, because this is like a cataloged tweet.
It's beautiful. This is a beautiful tweet. And so anyone can do this. And I would encourage anyone who wants to help Julian do beautiful tweets like this. And also this format, the scientific journalism format that Flir's doing, I mean, you can't do better than that. She's done a beautiful job, hasn't she?
One of the very sad things for me, I took a quick look at the articles that I had written years ago on WikiLeaks and on Julian Assange. And I have, in one of my earliest articles, I have a really nice quote from Julian Assange, but I didn't reference it.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, why did I not put the link? Normally I do, but I get busy and, or I just assume that, I'll remember, right?
Yes.
And so there's no reference to it. And so I don't know where I got it from.
Yes.
But it was such a great quote.
Yes.
But it's not one that's well known. It's not a popular.
You'll probably find it if you play enough of his speeches.
Yeah, I'll probably come across it. But it would have been one of the early speeches, because this was a blog piece I wrote, I think in either 2009 or 2010.
Wow.
It was one of the very, very early ones. And yeah, Fleur would probably know, actually.
Yeah.
And then I can put the reference in and not be embarrassed.
Yes.
But it's a great quote, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Fleur's very strong about that, about including the reference and everything. But I think it's beautiful, and it's also what Julian Assange talked about. Julian Assange talks about scientific journalism. WikiLeaks is scientific journalism where you see the raw data.
Yeah, and scientific journalism reflects in a library environment, in a reference environment, in the sense that in order for a library or reference environment to be effective, you have to have that approach. Yes. Of putting in the references and everything. So libraries and reference environments have always done that because they've had to. Academic environments have always done that because they've had to. It's part of the culture, the requirements. Yes. And expanding that out into the media is absolutely brilliant. One of the things I loved about WikiLeaks was that not only when you wrote a piece, related to something in the WikiLeaks files. Every article, for example, that I did about Stratford, one of the requirements when you were writing these articles was that you had to give a reference to the email. You had to notify WikiLeaks, and WikiLeaks would release that email, right? So people could not only read what you had to say about the document or documents, but they could actually go and look at the raw data, the actual document, and make up their own mind whether you were full of shit or whether you were, you know, on track.
Yes.
And that's a beautiful way of doing it. For example, there was a big thing a long time ago about a document that allegedly talked about CSIS. And CBC had written this piece where they claimed that the CSIS is Canada's CIA.
Oh, okay.
So CBC, our national broadcaster, I think it was CBC, I hope, my memory serves me right, did a piece where they claimed that the CSIS director had said something, and so I went to, and they said it was from WikiLeaks, but they didn't give the email. I went to the WikiLeaks files and looked. I found the email that they were referring to, but they had misrepresented what the CSIS director had said. Right?
To favor him?
Pardon me?
To favor him? To help him? To help the director?
No. I think it was sort of a hit piece.
Oh.
I don't recall all the details, to be honest, and so I really apologize for that, because this is the second time this has happened when we've had a conversation. But I don't recall all the details or what the specifics were. I just recall that CBC had made a comment about him, and when I checked to find it, because it was scandalous, he actually hadn't done that. And, you know, I mean, I don't want to defend the CSIS director, but I don't want to malign him for things he hasn't said, you know?
Yes.
Either. Like, let's stick to the truth. These guys are bad enough without making stuff up about them, you know?
Yes. Oh, that's great.
So it was, you know, that's the power of scientific journalism.
Yeah.
And it works, it's objective. It works for everybody.
Yeah.
You know? So in this particular case, it was actually helpful to Judd, you know, who, as the CSIS director. In other cases, it would not be so helpful to him because, you know, there is a lot of bad stuff that CSIS has done that's in the WikiLeaks files as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they talk about I think I mentioned to you that my uncle was the leader of this large left-wing organization, right?
Non-public.
And they talk about them in the WikiLeaks files. I actually tagged a few.
We're still live, by the way, because we're still live. You know we're still live, right?
Who?
We are still live. WikiBees is still live.
Oh, yeah. No, I know.
Okay.
This is all public knowledge. It's in my book.
Yes.
Yeah. So I actually tagged a few people that I had known way back in the day who used to be involved in that group. And showed them the emails. And it was, at this point, I mean, these not emails, but documents were from the 1970s. So at this point, it's just, oh, ha, this is what they thought about what we were doing, right? So it was more just of a joke, but, and I haven't found anything really scandalous yet, you know, related to the RCMP dirty tricks or anything like that. That's actually the kind of stuff I've been hunting for in the files.
Yes. Can I do a screen share of your pinned tweet?
Oh, sure.
on Twitter. This is background for what you said. You mentioned your book, and you must be referring to this, eh?
Yes, yeah. It's a fictionalized memoir, and I'm doing that for a lot of different reasons. But a lot of it is true, but I just don't tell anyone what's true and what isn't. That's my basic approach. Publicly, I will not tell anybody. You have to figure it out yourself. And anyone who knows anything about, you know, the dirty tricks era of the RCMP in the 1970s and 80s, well, in the 1970s in Canada, and the dirty tricks of CSIS in the 1980s, we'll know what's true and what isn't. Or we'll have a general idea. They won't be able to get everything because, of course, my personal experiences, which are in there, you won't know which are true and which aren't. But in terms of the general story, basically it is actually based on files that I found that talked about the kind of activities that the RCMP had engaged in. There were big
files. WikiLeaks files?
No, in Canada we had what they called the MacDonald Commission into RCMP wrongdoings. And that was the same kind of thing as the Church Committee investigations into COINTELPRO in the US.
Yes.
And it was occurring around the same time as well. And the RCMP had engaged in a lot of dirty tricks. So these hearings exposed some of them, but a lot of it was kept classified. This section that is still classified, and that some people have tried to FOIA and they won't declassify it, is the section of, I'm trying to recall what it was. I'm just going to do a quick search here to get the name of what it was called, because there was a specific name associated with it. MacDonald Commission, RCMP. It's called the Royal Commission of Inquiry into Certain Activities of the RCMP. And if we go to the Canadian site, there is one document that is still classified. And the rest has mostly been declassified and published online here. Here, I can give you a link and then people can see what I'm referring to.
Kitty, can you tell us, so this string of digits, is that if someone wants to send you information?
Oh, no, that is
a secret.
That's a secret.
Okay.
That's an encrypted string.
Oh, okay.
And if I croak tomorrow by accidental or other means or natural means, it will be decrypted.
Oh, okay. Wow.
It's kind of like a dead man switch, I guess, in a way, sort of.
Yeah. All right. And the last part available on Lulu, so that's an online reader. Can I click this link? Am I allowed to click this link?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So Kitty Hundal's books. And so this is $9.99. You can read this as an ebook for $9.99.
Yeah, it's not too expensive.
Yes.
I only have it in digital format right now. I started a Patreon a while ago, and I kind of left the Patreon alone for now, because I don't want to, we're busy with the Unity campaign, but I'll start promoting it later. The Patreon is to allow me to publish a print version and an audio version.
Yeah.
because I'm not making a lot of money on this. So,
well, maybe after this plug, you never know,
You never know. You never know. I put a link into chat on the RCMP McDonald Commission hearings. I still don't, I wasn't able to find the name of the segment of the hearings that is still classified. But basically that segment is the really heavy duty dirty tricks that they did, that they engaged in.
So this is screen share now.
Yeah. And I believe that one of the cases in that classified section is me.
Wow.
But of course I can't prove it because it's classified, and any attempts on my part to get FOIAs, they've started sending me, I received a second letter where they tell me that because there's other people names included in the documents, they will not release them to me. And I'm like, what? On that basis, they can refuse everybody a FOIA.
Yeah, why can't they redact them?
Exactly. That's what they normally do. Yeah. So if they're going to use the fact that other names are in a document and not release that document to the person it's about,
yes,
that's absurd. It's completely, the rationalization is completely absurd. And yet I have 2 letters now stating that in my efforts to try to get information. I'm trying to get the ProFunk information as well, because ProFunk,
what is ProFunk?
ProFunk is what was it? Here, 1 second. Let me just, so that I can give you the correct abbreviation here. ProFunk Canada. Oh yeah, ProFunk is an acronym for Prominent Functionaries of the Communist Party.
Oh.
And what it was a list that was started in the 1950s in Canada of everyone who was a dissenter, not just communists. They had Tommy Douglas on the list, who was the father of Canada's healthcare system. At one point, Pierre Trudeau was on the list, the Prime Minister of Canada.
Who did the list?
The list was done by the RCMP Security National Directorate of Security.
Yes. And
it was developed by an RCMP sergeant, not sergeant, but commissioner in 1950. They started the list at that time. In 1970, when Canada, or 1969, just before Canada declared its War Measures Act to deal with the FLQ situation. I don't know if you're familiar with all of this history in Canada, but in the 1970s, Canada had a group called the Front de Libération du Québec. And that organization was a separatist organization and believed in Quebec separation. The RCMP infiltrated the group.
And terrorist acts?
And they committed terrorist acts in the group's name. So in 1970...
the infiltrators committed terrorist acts?
Pardon me?
The infiltrators committed terrorist acts?
Yes, RCMP infiltrators actually committed the terrorist acts. They got caught. This is what led to the RCMP commission into wrongdoing. Was one person got caught because he was planting a bomb, and he blew his hands off, and he was actually an RCMP infiltrator.
So that's the Canadian Security Agency.
This was well, they didn't have CSIS at that time. At that time, they had the National Directorate of Security, or National Directorate of Intelligence. So that later became, after the RCMP hearings, the MacDonald Commission hearings, that organization was disbanded. All of the red squads across Canada were disbanded, and CSIS was founded. And the whole idea of CSIS was to hire people who had university degrees, who were professional, educated, and wouldn't do evil things. But CSIS also got everything the RCMP did that was illegal, like stealing people's mail, accessing people's medical records, violating their privacy. Almost all of it was made legal. Right?
That's one way to stop people doing illegal things, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was like a pointless kind of exercise. But the Profunk lists in 1969 were reactivated because of the FLQ activities. And there were, one of the ideas of the lists was that they were going to actually intern people. So they had these lists of people who were left-wing. They had their lists of all of their family members and their work associates and colleagues, people they were close to in the community, friends, other relatives, anyone they were close to. And the idea was that if there was a crisis, like the War Measures Act, they would have mass arrests of these people and intern them in military detention centers. There was no sentencing in the sense that you could be kept there forever. It was literally like Guantanamo. You could have been kept there forever. The discipline was supposed to be military, strict discipline, you know, and they had prepared, I think it was, I'm not sure about my numbers here, I think it was 700 something names where they actually had internment reports that were supposed to be sent to the local police departments where the people lived. So every police department.
Is that requests for internment?
They were forms, yeah, forms for internment. So the police would receive all these forms, and then if internment was declared, they would immediately go and do these mass arrests. Wow. There were 100 children on that list, under 17. I was 16 that year.
So do you know who was on the lists?
I'm trying to find out, but they haven't given me the list. My FOIA, they rejected my FOIA as well on that.
So you think you might be on that list?
I'm 99% sure I'm on that list, because, you know, it wasn't just my uncle who was the founder of this left-wing organization. My father also had quite a history, you know. So, and it didn't matter to them that I did or didn't, right? Like, it literally didn't matter to them whether I was involved in any kind of activism or not, because when I was 16, I wasn't, right? I mean, I went to visit my uncle and visit relatives and hung out with their friends, but I was 16, I was a kid. And that's actually when things started happening, you know, in terms of, yeah. But you know, later on for a few years, I did become an activist. I was an activist in my late teens and early 20s. And then when I had my kids, well, I guess I was right through my 20s, actually. When I had my kids and I got my divorce from my ex, I pretty much wasn't active in anything. Of course, I cared. I was, you know, socially conscious, but I wasn't involved in any activities or anything like that for a long, long time. But it didn't make any difference to these people.
Wow. Kitty, this is fascinating. I am so conscious that it's past like more than 3.5 hours since we were supposed to start the stream. It's probably less than 3 hours in total, but maybe there are a couple of other just like news items that I did tweets from of what happened this week relating to Julian. So,
good. Yes, for sure.
So maybe we should, well, quickly go through those, and then maybe we should wrap up.
Absolutely. I'm totally on board. I think Joe, I saw a picture of him as he was heading home on the bus.
Yeah, he kept popping his head in. So I just see. Okay, so I just there's some tweets that I prepared for today. So
I love that image.
This is just an ad. This is an ad for WikiLeaks. For their WikiLeaks shop, and it's just a plug. Their merchandise is the artistry is wonderful, isn't it? So
it's absolutely great.
So that's one way that you can get some funds to WikiLeaks and get wonderful clothes, etc. For that. So that's basically just an ad. But
they have embassy cat mouse pad, which I thought is so cute.
You have it. Do you have it, or they have it?
No, I haven't got it. But if I do buy anything from the store, the first thing is gonna be that embassy cat mouse pad.
Yes. That's actually the next tweet, which a lot of people ask about. One of the best activists for Julian has been Embassy Cat. And so this is from Assange Legal. By the way, Assange Legal, if you click on her account, actually I'll do it. I'll see if it shows. Caution, this account is temporarily restricted.
Yeah. That's just bots.
She's one of the main people to follow if you follow WikiLeaks and if you're interested in WikiLeaks. So that's just to mention. But anyway, this tweet is, someone actually asked in today's YouTube chat what happened to Embassy Cat. So she says, in the same document in which Ecuador threatened to hand Assange over for arrest, Ecuador also threatened to put Assange's cat in the can. Incensed at the threat, he asked his lawyers to take his cat to safety. The cat is with Assange's family. They will be reunited in freedom. So that's news about Assange's cat. And this was discussed a little bit. I've gone out of screen share, but let's see, I'll get back into screen share. I already talked about that. Oops. So WikiLeaks launches a legal fund to sue The Guardian. We already talked about that a bit earlier on. So they're trying to raise $300,000 for this article that just as the interest was peaking in Julian in America, The Guardian published this smear article which claimed Manafort, who's Donald Trump's campaign manager, I think he was, held secret talks with Assange in the Ecuadorian embassy. So this would tend to, if it was true, would tend to connect Julian Assange with Donald Trump. And Julian Assange immediately said, sue them. So WikiLeaks is suing The Guardian for a false story. They say it's utterly false. And so within 90 minutes, Guardian modified that headline to say sources say. So instead of claiming it was true, all they're saying is sources say it's true.
Well, according to UK libel law, from what I understand, somebody tweeted this anyway. According to them, it doesn't matter if they changed it. They published it that way. It went out to a lot of other sites. And even if they change it after the fact, it doesn't affect the libel case, according to this person.
Yes, that was much easier of understanding as well. So these have already been covered. This is the latest on what's happened on the request to unseal the indictment. That what is Julian Assange charged with? And the latest is that the hearing was held in front of this judge, Leonie Brinkema, who you had no chance against. But what she did was, she said, we'll give it 7 days to decide and for both sides to give further submissions. So the decision has been delayed. That's the latest on that. That's the latest news. We already talked about that. We already talked about Pompeo meeting with Ecuador secretary. That was when Jose was here, so that's earlier on. This is news from Australia. Meetings in Canberra tomorrow. This is from the 26th. So those meetings already took place. So after Pamela Anderson raised the interest in Australia on Julian Assange, things are starting to happen. So credit again to Pamela Anderson. She's done a wonderful service to Julian in
yes,
raising the consciousness of Australians about Julian. So
yeah.
Greg Barnes is Julian Assange's lawyer in Australia. Actually, that's just showing his profile picture, which is a picture of him with Julian Assange.
Well, and he has said, I should actually make some clips of those videos where he has actually said that this is a political situation, and it's going to need a political solution. And that's what he's going for here. He took advantage of the moment with Pamela Anderson and the wonderful work she did to draw attention.
Yes.
And now he's moving in and taking it to the next level. And, you know, it's diversity of tactics, right?
Yes.
On the one hand, you have Greg Barnes taking the political approach. On the other hand, you have the libel lawsuit, which is putting Guardian on notice that they have to stop doing what they're doing. And then you have the attempt to, or the suit by the Reporters Committee to have the charges unsealed, so that at least everybody can be prepared. I mean, you know, it must be ridiculously difficult for the lawyers and for Julian Assange to decide what approach they're going to take with all of this when they don't even know what the charges are.
Yes.
And the rest of the media also needs to know what the charges are, because it's going to have an impact on them, and they're realizing that. Like, there's been so many blue check marks starting to talk about this, and articles starting to be published where they're basically taking the position, doesn't matter whether you like Assange or not, this is going to affect all of us.
Yes.
So we better start paying attention. And so in terms of that, knowing what the charges are will be very helpful. And at this point, it's redundant to keep them sealed because everybody knows they exist now.
Yes.
And the point of keeping them sealed was so that we didn't know they existed, so that Assange didn't know they existed. But Brinkema has a history.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, that wonderful speech from John Kiriakau from earlier on in the stream.
Yeah.
You were responsible for that. You pulled, so that's great. All right, so I'll read the tweet and then move on to the rest of the news a little bit more. So Julian Assange's lawyer says from Australia, this is from 3 days ago, meetings in Canberra tomorrow with Julian Assange father and MPs. So finally, political action. The MPs didn't want to know about Julian Assange up until Pamela Anderson, I think, basically. Cross benches with a couple of rare exceptions, I think. crossbenchers and senators very open, along with some coalition MPs, to meetings. They understand the attack on freedom of speech the US indictment represents. So things are starting to move politically in Australia. So
yeah.
A lot is going on this week. So let's see. Oh, this relates to WikiLeaks trying to sue The Guardian. They did a GoFundMe for seeking $300,000, and they've raised about 10% of it within one day.
You should check to see what it says, what it's at now.
Oh, just click on the link.
Yeah, let's see what it says now.
A little bit more.
A little bit, yeah. It's getting there.
Yeah.
Somebody was saying, oh, what do they need $300,000 for? The lawyers are volunteering, should volunteer, blah, blah, blah. Well, let me tell you something about libel lawsuits. Libel lawsuits cost millions.
Mm-hmm.
Fundraising $300,000 will not pay the lawyers at all. That's going to pay the different processing fees and documentations and all of the technical stuff that they have to go through when they're filing a libel lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
And it may give the lawyers a few dollars, I don't know, but it's not going to be very much. Because I know in Canada for sure, and I don't think the UK is very much different. You can literally spend millions of dollars. That's why people don't file libel lawsuits unless they're very rich in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Not because libel doesn't happen here.
Yes. Someone like Jennifer Robinson, I mean, she's done so much pro bono, I think, over the years. And
I think all the lawyers have been, you know, they do a certain amount pro bono, and I don't think they charge a lot for
WikiLeaks stuff.
No.
Yes, I imagine. Very. I mean, to hear Jennifer Robinson, like when she's being interviewed herself, and how passionate she talks about the issues of Julian Assange, it's really good to watch.
Yeah, they're very committed and passionate about the issues. It's the issues that matter a great deal to them.
Yes.
This isn't about making money for them.
Yes. And we already covered this. This is the tweet from WikiLeaks. Again, if you want to know what Julian's chances are in the US, go to WikiLeaks on Twitter and click on this segment which we played earlier. It's only 2 minutes, but I'll leave it up to you. And his chances are basically zero. It's a rigged system. And John Kiriakau, the CIA anti-torture whistleblower, who was convicted in this court, explains it beautifully.
First-hand experience.
Yes. Okay, so Julian's legal defense account has been frozen since Friday. When it was revealed, he has been secretly charged by the US government, always claiming too many access attempts.
Well, that could actually be a legitimate problem. You know, when people are trying to hack an account, you'll get that kind of message, right? And it would not surprise me if you had people trying to hack these accounts. And what Twitter does do, because I've had this message in the past, and it wasn't related to anything conspiratorial, right? There were actually hack attempts on my account, and Twitter was actually protecting my account. But they had an authorization process that I could go through.
Yes.
And for some reason, with this one, they aren't going through that authorization process, or there's a problem, possibly, I don't know. But I know when it happened to me, they actually did have an authorization process. I went through it and I was able to get into my account. So,
okay.
So it's possible that it is a conspiratorial thing.
Yes. Okay. So this is Pamela Anderson's in Australia. We talked about that earlier. We talked about this interview before. On an interview again. That's a WikiLeaks tweet.
Chris Hedges is another just amazing person to listen to.
Yes. So WikiLeaks account is super interesting at the moment. If you're interested in Julian Assange, just recommend seeing it. And Glenn Greenwald has also talked about Julian Assange. So this is just a nice quote from him. Whatever you think of Julian, whatever you think of WikiLeaks, what has been done to him over the last 6 to 7 years is a very sustained, serious, and deliberate violation of his basic liberties.
Yeah, Greenwald can be a bit of a jerk, but when it comes down to the crunch, he has always had Julian Assange's back on this ethical approach, right?
Yeah.
He's been very, very solid and very good about that. And it's nice that he's been coming out more in the last week. He's started coming out almost every day with tweets.
Yeah. All right, Kitty, that was the last of it. I really enjoyed actually the last part of this session, hearing some of your history. It's been fascinating. So it's been a good session, and
thank you for the book promo.
You're welcome. It's a very interesting book. Okay, so maybe we should wrap up now.
Okay.
So this is going to be, this has been recorded, and hopefully this will appear quite soon for people to listen to. So thanks very much. Anyone who gets here has listened to the stream, and it's been quite interesting. So good night, everyone. And good night from you, I suppose, Kitty.
Yeah, now I just need to figure out, because Joe's not here.
Oh yeah, the last thing. So Kitty is helping a lot with the stream today for the first time. And so do you want me to call Joe from the Discord or anything like that?
Gee, I'm trying to find the we have been streaming, right?
Not live. Oh, we've been live streaming, but it's so buffered that it's not useful. I don't think anyone has stayed on the stream.
Because I'm not even seeing our software. Where is it? Okay, here it is. Where did it go? Okay, I guess it plays even when it's shut down, but for some reason it closed itself off. Okay, I will.
So, yeah, I'll send a message to Joe.
The stream has stopped.
Oh, David is sending me some messages.
Isn't that something else? It says it's running, launch anyway. Okay, so it is running somewhere. I'm just not seeing it for some reason. So it is streaming.
Yeah, I don't want to press the end meeting button because I'm the one who's recording this. If I press the end meeting button, does the recording, is that an elegant way to finish and save the recording? It should be, right? I just don't want to do anything.
Oh, I see what's happened. Okay, cancel. 1 second here. I see what's happened. It's just minimized itself. That's so it was running. There was no problem.
This is all going to be cut, I think, from the recorded version.
Yeah, it looks like it's fine. It stopped. Can you check the YouTube just to make sure?
Okay.
I'm not sure where it is.
Oh, live stream offline, streamed live 78 minutes ago. Maybe Joe shut it off.
No, it was running. It was just minimized. That's why I couldn't find it.
But the YouTube stream, live stream, ended 79 minutes ago.
Oh. So maybe when it minimized itself, something crashed in there. We've just gotten it started on my system. And so it's brand new here. So we're going to have bugs that we're going to have to figure out. And I guess.
Yeah, well, first time, that's fine. Yeah, no great loss, I think, because I don't think anyone was watching that because the buffering was so bad. Oh, here's
okay.
Joe. Hi, Joe.
Yeah, we'll have a recording anyway, because you have, now if you did it locally, you will probably need to pass that on to someone in video to. Yeah,
David Sorot, sorry, no, I'm not sure. So David S. has sent me a message to send it to Megadrop.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I've got it here.
And he can edit it out.
So I'm going to have some sort of file somewhere, but I don't even know where it is. So let's see. Where will the file be, Joe? Downloads?
I'm sorry?
I was asking Joe. Joe's here.
Is he here?
Yes. Even his face was here. Joe, where are you? He's probably having dinner or something.
It looks like something crashed, Joe.
Can't hear you, Joe. Can you hear us?
I can hear you, but
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now we can.
Cool. But yeah, my microphone and my phone is somewhat broken, it seems. So it doesn't work on any video conferencing app. Works on phone, but anyway, I had to find earphones.
Now we can't hear you.
What? Something did something die on the stream PC?
No, you're cutting in and out, Joe. We can't hear you reliably.
Yeah, the software seemed to have stopped on the stream PC, Joe. And well, what it did, it was minimized, but for some reason it just stopped working.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. We've got the recording anyway, so we can cut some good stuff out of this.
Yeah, but it's probably something we need to look at before the next one.
Oh, if you're still around in an hour.
You're cutting out, Joe. We can't hear you now.
Yeah. Type it in chat.
Okay.
We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Type it in
never
chat.
mind. Hey, I'm scared of losing the recording too, Joe. So where do I find the recording and how do I make sure that I keep it?
Once you stop,
shall I stop recording now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to press stop recording.